Ever feel like the world is moving too fast, like you're caught in a storm of notifications, deadlines, and endless noise? Picture this. You're stuck in traffic, horns blaring, your phone buzzing with messages, and your mind racing with everything you still need to do. It's overwhelming, right? Now, imagine feeling completely calm in that same chaos, untouched by the frustration, unshaken by the pressure. That's the power of Stoic peace, and it's not just a fantasy. 2,000 years ago, Marcus Aurelius, one of history's greatest Stoic philosophers, wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Those words weren't just advice for ancient Rome. They're a lifeline for anyone drowning in the chaos of modern life. Stoicism isn't about suppressing emotions or pretending everything's fine. It's about mastering the art of inner stillness, no matter what's happening around you. Think of it like this. Life throws hurricanes at all of us: stress, uncertainty, setbacks. But Stoicism teaches you how to be the eye of the storm, steady and unbroken. And the best part, this isn't some abstract philosophy locked away in old books. These are practical, actionable tools you can use today to reclaim your peace, your focus, and your sense of control. That's exactly what this video is about. We're going to explore the timeless Stoic practices that can help you navigate chaos with unshakable calm. From simple daily exercises to mindset shifts that reframe how you see challenges, you'll walk away with strategies that actually work. Whether it's a frustrating commute, a stressful workday, or the endless scroll of bad news, you'll learn how to step back, anchor yourself, and respond with clarity instead of reacting in panic. This isn't about escaping reality. It's about transforming how you experience it. So if you're ready to build a peace that doesn't depend on perfect circumstances, let's begin. Stoic peace isn't about waiting for the world to quiet down. It's about finding quiet within yourself, no matter how loud things get. Imagine standing in the middle of a crowded subway train during rush hour. People are pushing, announcements blare overhead, and your phone keeps lighting up with alerts. Most of us would feel tense, irritated, maybe even overwhelmed. But Stoic peace asks a radical question. What if your calm didn't depend on the train emptying out or your inbox hitting zero? What if you could carry that stillness with you like an anchor in the chaos? This is where the Stoic dichotomy of control comes in, a concept Epictetus laid out centuries ago. He divided the world into two simple categories: things we can control and things we can't. Your thoughts, your actions, your reactions, those are yours to command. The traffic, the weather, other people's opinions, not so much. The magic happens when you stop pouring energy into fighting what's outside your grip and start focusing on what's within it. Think of it like trying to hold back the ocean with your hands, exhausting and pointless. But building a boat, that's where your power lies. Here's a quick exercise to make this real. Grab a piece of paper or open your notes app. Draw two columns. In the first, list the stressors that feel overwhelming right now. Maybe it's a demanding boss, a strained relationship, or the non-stop news cycle. Now, in the second column, ask yourself, which of these can I truly control? You might realize your boss's mood isn't yours to fix, but how you prepare for meetings is. You can't force someone to apologize, but you can choose how you respond. This isn't about giving up. It's about redirecting your effort where it actually makes a difference. And here's the key distinction. Stoic peace isn't the same as happiness. Happiness tends to rise and fall with circumstances. It's a high when things go well, a crash when they don't. Peace, though, that's steadier. It's the deep down knowing that you're anchored, even in the storm. Picture a candle flame in a windless room versus one in a drafty hallway. The first flickers wildly at the mercy of every gust. The second might sway, but its light stays constant because it's protected. That's the kind of resilience Stoicism builds, a light that doesn't go out, no matter how hard the wind blows. So the next time chaos knocks, pause, ask yourself, is this mine to solve or mine to accept? That simple shift, from fighting what you can't change to mastering what you can, is where Stoic peace begins. What if your biggest challenges weren't obstacles but opportunities in disguise? The Stoics had a revolutionary way of looking at life's difficulties, not as setbacks, but as the very things that shape us into stronger, wiser versions of ourselves. Seneca, the great Stoic philosopher, put it bluntly, difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. Think about that for a moment. Every time life pushes against you, it's not trying to knock you down, it's giving you a chance to grow. Let's make this real with a modern example. Imagine someone loses their job unexpectedly. The immediate reaction might be panic, frustration, even shame. But through a Stoic lens, this same event becomes a pivot point. Maybe it's the nudge they needed to pursue a passion they'd sidelined for years. Maybe it's a chance to build resilience, to network in new ways, or to discover strengths they didn't know they had. History is full of people who turned so-called failures into launching pads. Steve Jobs famously said getting fired from Apple was the best thing that ever happened to him. The event itself didn't change, the perspective did. Here's where Stoic perception becomes a superpower. It's not about pretending everything is fine when it's not. It's about asking, what can I learn here? How can this make me better? Even the most frustrating situations carry hidden gifts if you're willing to look for them. Take traffic jams. Most of us see them as wasted time. But what if you use those minutes to listen to an inspiring podcast, practice mindfulness, or even just enjoy a moment of quiet? The delay didn't vanish, but its meaning shifted from annoyance to opportunity. Now, let's put this into action. Grab a notebook and think of one problem weighing on you right now. It could be anything, a strained relationship, a work project that's hitting snags, even the relentless pace of daily life. Write it down, then ask yourself, how could this actually be helping me? Maybe that difficult coworker is teaching you patience. Maybe the missed deadline is highlighting where you need to set better boundaries. The goal isn't to sugarcoat the struggle, but to mine it for growth. This is the heart of Stoic reframing, training yourself to see the hidden contours of advantage in every challenge. The philosopher King Marcus Aurelius faced wars, betrayals, and immense pressure, yet he wrote, "The impediment to action advances action." What stands in the way becomes the way. That's not just poetic, it's practical. When you start viewing obstacles as the path itself, you stop feeling like life is happening to you and start realizing it's happening for you. So the next time something goes wrong, pause. Ask, what's the opportunity here? You might just find the universe was giving you exactly what you needed, even if it didn't come wrapped the way you expected. There's a profound idea at the heart of Stoicism that might sound counterintuitive at first, loving whatever life throws at you, even the hard stuff. The ancient Stoics called this amor fati, a Latin phrase that translates to love of fate. It's not about passively resigning yourself to misfortune, but actively embracing it as part of your journey. Centuries later, Friedrich Nietzsche would echo this same idea, writing, "My formula for greatness in a human being is amor fati, that one wants nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not in all eternity." In other words, true strength comes from saying yes to life exactly as it unfolds. Consider Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor who ruled during one of history's worst plagues. Instead of railing against the unfairness or crumbling under the weight of suffering, he saw it as his duty to lead with wisdom and compassion. In his private writings, he reflected, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." That's amor fati in practice, not denying the reality of pain, but using it as fuel to become better. Now, contrast that with how most of us react to setbacks. When traffic derails our plans or a project falls through, our first instinct is often resistance. Why is this happening to me? But amor fati flips the script. It asks, how is this happening for me? Think of a river encountering a boulder. It doesn't stop and complain. It adapts, flows around, and keeps moving. That's the mindset shift, from seeing obstacles as interruptions to recognizing them as part of the terrain. Here's a challenge for you. Look back at a recent frustration, a missed opportunity, a disagreement, even a minor inconvenience like a broken appliance. Instead of focusing on how it derailed you, ask, what did this reveal about my strengths? How did it force me to grow? Maybe that delayed flight gave you unexpected time to read. Maybe the argument taught you something about communication. Amor fati isn't about pretending everything's perfect. It's about finding the value in what's already here. This isn't just philosophical musing, it's a practical tool for resilience. When you stop fighting reality and start working with it, you conserve energy for what matters. Imagine two people stuck in the same rainstorm. One curses the weather, soaking themselves in misery. The other laughs, splashes through puddles, and notices how the raindrops glint in the light. Same storm, entirely different experience. That's the power of amor fati, turning what could break you into what builds you. So the next time life takes an unexpected turn, try whispering, "I love this," even through gritted teeth. You might just find the storm was exactly what you needed. Epictetus, the former slave turned Stoic teacher, had a radical idea about desire, one that cut straight through the noise of modern life. In his famous handbook, he wrote, "Freedom is secured not by the fulfillment of one's desires, but by the removal of desire itself." At first glance, that might sound extreme. We live in a world that constantly tells us to want more, the newest phone, the perfect job title, the ideal relationship. But Stoicism flips the script. What if the key to peace isn't getting what you crave, but carefully choosing what you crave in the first place? Think about how often we tie our happiness to outcomes we can't control. You might pour your heart into a project, only to fixate on whether your boss praises it. You could dream of a promotion, staking your self-worth on a decision made in a conference room you'll never enter. The Stoics called this the discipline of desire, the practice of wanting only what aligns with your principles and efforts, not what depends on luck or other people's whims. It's the difference between craving external validation and valuing the integrity of your own work. Modern consumerism thrives on manufactured dissatisfaction. Ads whisper that you'll finally be happy once you own X, achieve Y, or look like Z. But Stoic minimalism asks a deeper question. How much of what you desire is truly yours, and how much has been handed to you by a culture that profits from your restlessness? Imagine two people stuck in traffic. One seethes, white-knuckling the wheel because they're attached to arriving on time, something entirely outside their control. The other breathes, listens to music, and accepts the delay. Same situation, radically different experiences, all because of what they chose to desire. Here's how to put this into practice. Pick one thing you've been longing for this week. Maybe it's a specific outcome at work, a purchase you've been saving for, or even someone else's approval. Now ask yourself, is this something I can control with my own actions? If the answer's no, try reframing your desire around what you can influence. Instead of craving the promotion, focus on becoming the kind of person who deserves it. Instead of fixating on someone liking you, invest in being authentically likable. The goal isn't to stop wanting things, it's to want wisely. This isn't about settling for less, it's about liberating yourself from the roller coaster of external validation. The poet Rumi once wrote, "Be like a tree and let the dead leaves drop." The discipline of desire is that shedding, releasing what clutters your peace to make room for what truly nourishes it. So this week, experiment with detachment. Notice how it feels to want without needing, to strive without clutching. You might just find that the less you demand from the world, the more it quietly gives back. Marcus Aurelius kept a journal not to record his achievements as emperor, but to remind himself of something far more important. That true worth lies in how we act, not what we gain. In one entry, he scribbled, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one." That's the essence of the Stoic discipline of action, doing what's right because it's right, not because it might earn applause or avoid criticism. Imagine planting a tree knowing you'll never sit in its shade. That's virtuous action, effort detached from outcome. This philosophy clashes with much of modern hustle culture, where every act seems measured by likes, promotions, or visible impact. But Stoicism asks us to flip that script. Consider modern activists who work for change without ever trending on social media. The volunteers who staff food banks in anonymity, the neighbors who organize quietly for local causes. Their power comes from commitment to the work itself, not the spotlight. Marcus wrote, "The reward of a thing well done is to have done it." That's the litmus test. Would you still show up if no one ever noticed? Here's a challenge that makes this personal. Think of a small, right action you could take today, maybe thanking an overlooked colleague, picking up litter in your park, or listening deeply to someone who's struggling. Now commit to doing it with zero expectation of acknowledgement. Notice how this shifts your motivation from external validation to internal integrity. The cashier you thanked might not remember you by lunchtime, but you'll remember the kind of person you chose to be. This discipline shines brightest when tested. Picture two nurses working the same hospital shift. One obsesses over whether patients will praise them. The other focuses solely on giving compassionate care. Both might perform similar tasks, but the second embodies Stoic action, finding fulfillment in the deed itself. As Marcus noted, what's not good for the hive isn't good for the bee. Virtue isn't a personal brand, it's a compass. So where does this leave ambition? Stoicism doesn't demand we abandon goals, but it reframes why we pursue them. Building a business becomes meaningful when the work aligns with your values, not just the bottom line. Parenting transforms when you focus less on raising successful children and more on modeling integrity daily. Even fitness gains depth when the aim shifts from mirror approval to honoring your body's strength. The through line is always the same: act from principle, not payoff. Try this tonight. Reflect on 3 actions you took today, mundane or meaningful. For each, ask, did I do this because it was right or because I wanted a certain result? No judgment, just observation. You might discover how often we tether our worth to outcomes we can't control. Then imagine Marcus' whisper across centuries. Your power is in your choices, not your circumstances. That's the freedom the discipline of action offers, not control over life's chessboard, but mastery over how you move your pieces. Here's how a single moment can change everything. You're driving home after a long day when someone cuts you off, slamming their horn like it's your fault. Your chest tightens, your grip on the wheel turns white-knuckled, and before you know it, you're shouting words you'd never say face to face. That surge of rage feels automatic, inevitable, but what if it wasn't? Stoicism introduces a game-changing idea called the discipline of assent, and it all comes down to the split second between what happens to you and how you respond. Epictetus put it perfectly. It's not things that upset us, but our judgments about things. That honking car isn't the problem. It's the story you instantly tell yourself. They did that on purpose. They're disrespecting me. This ruins my whole night. This is where most of us get hijacked by our first impressions. We mistake our knee-jerk interpretations for truth, reacting as if they're facts carved in stone. But Stoics see that gap between event and reaction as sacred space, a moment of freedom where you can choose your next move. Imagine your mind as a courtroom. Every external event, like that aggressive driver, enters as evidence, but here's the twist: you're both the witness and the judge. The discipline of assent is about pausing long enough to ask, do I really want to swear allegiance to this angry interpretation? Or is there another way to see this? Let's make this practical with what I call the 5-second rule. Next time something triggers you, a rude comment, a missed deadline, even a spilled coffee, freeze for 5 slow breaths. In that pause, strip the event bare, just the facts. A car changed lanes abruptly. Full stop. No villains, no motives, no catastrophes. Then consciously decide, does this deserve my anger or my indifference? Does it merit my energy or a shrug? You'll start noticing how often we pour gasoline on tiny sparks with our judgments. Now consider your personal trigger list. Maybe it's being interrupted in meetings, seeing a certain name pop up in your inbox, or hearing that one phrase from a family member that instantly sets you off. These are your assent hotspots, moments where your automatic judgments run the show. For 1 week, play anthropologist with your own reactions. Carry a small notebook and jot down what set you off, what story you told yourself, and whether that story held up under scrutiny. You might discover that 90% of your distress comes from interpretations, not events. Here's the liberating truth: no one can force you to assent to any thought. That driver can't make you angry, your boss can't make you feel small, a rainy day can't ruin anything. Those reactions require your silent permission. Every time you pause before signing off on a judgment, you're exercising what Marcus Aurelius called the ruling faculty, your power to say, actually, no. I won't let this mean more than it does. It's not about suppressing emotions, it's about refusing to let fleeting impressions dictate your inner world. So the next time life honks at you, remember you hold the gavel. Imagine waking up tomorrow to find your bank account drained, your car gone, or your phone shattered on the sidewalk. Your stomach drops just thinking about it. Right now, here's the paradox: the Stoics didn't just occasionally ponder these scenarios, they practiced dwelling on them deliberately. This technique, called Premeditatio Malorum, Latin for the premeditation of evils, wasn't about pessimism. It was about vaccination for the soul. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher who advised emperors, wrote, "He robs present ills of their power who has perceived their coming beforehand." In other words, by mentally rehearsing life's worst-case scenarios, you strip them of their power to shock or derail you when they actually happen. Think of it like fire drills. We don't conduct them because we expect buildings to burn down. We do them so panic doesn't hijack us during an emergency. Ancient Stoics applied this same logic to emotional resilience. Seneca would regularly practice what he called lost drills, imagining the death of loved ones, the collapse of his career, even his own exile. Sounds grim, but here's what happened. When hardship did strike, he wasn't blindsided. He'd already faced it in his mind, so he could face it in reality with clarity. Let's fast forward to modern chaos. Your Wi-Fi crashes before a big presentation. Your flight gets cancelled last minute. Your dog eats your laptop charger again. Most of us react to these mini disasters with frustration, as if the universe personally betrayed us. But what if you'd already visualized these hiccups, not in an anxious what-if spiral, but with calm detachment? If my internet fails, I'll hotspot my phone. If the flight's cancelled, I'll rebook at the counter. That's premeditatio malorum in action, replacing shock with solutions before problems even arise. Here's how to try it today. Pick one mundane inconvenience that typically rattles you, maybe spilling coffee on your shirt, missing a call, or hitting every red light on your commute. Close your eyes and vividly imagine it happening. But here's the key: instead of resisting, practice acceptance. This is annoying but not catastrophic. I can handle this. Feel the difference. You're not avoiding reality, you're rehearsing your response to it. The magic lies in the contrast. When you expect life to be smooth, every bump feels like a betrayal. But when you anticipate bumps as part of the ride, you stop wasting energy on outrage and start flowing with what comes. Like a sailor who trains for storms, you'll find yourself steady when others are seasick. As Seneca put it, the man who has anticipated the coming of troubles takes away their power when they arrive. So tonight, spend 5 minutes mentally weathering small storms. Tomorrow, when one inevitably hits, watch how much quieter your mind stays because you've already been here before. There's a Stoic practice so counter to modern instincts that it might stop you mid-scroll, deliberately reflecting on your own death. The ancient Romans called it Memento Mori, remember you must die. Far from morbid fixation, this was their wake-up call to presence. Marcus Aurelius scribbled reminders to himself like this one: you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. Imagine carrying that awareness into your morning coffee, your commute, your conversations, not as a shadow of dread, but as a lens that sharpens what matters. Now contrast that with how most of us move through our days. Notices ping, screens flicker, and we fracture our attention across a dozen trivialities. We skim articles while half listening to podcasts, check emails during family dinners, and mistake busyness for living. Death, that's for someday, until a health scare, a loss, or a near miss jolts us awake. The Stoics argued we shouldn't wait for those jolts. By keeping life's finitude close, we filter out the noise. Picture two people at the same dinner table, one snapping photos for Instagram, the other tasting every bite, laughing with undivided attention. Both are alive, but only one is living. Here's the experiment Marcus would urge you to try. Tonight, as you turn off the lights, ask, if this were my last day, would I regret how I spent it? Not in broad strokes did I change the world, but in the granular, did I really listen when my kid rambled about their Lego tower? Did I savor the warmth of sunlight through the window or scroll past it? This isn't about grand bucket lists, it's about the micro moments we steamroll through on autopilot. The Stoics knew a secret: confronting mortality doesn't shrink life, it expands it. When someday collapses into today, you stop postponing joy, connection, and meaning. Think of an old pocket watch with Tempus Fugit engraved on its case. Time flies. That's not pessimism, it's precision. Every tick is a nudge. This is your one shot at this conversation, this sunset, this breath. The modern world sells us distraction like a comfort, but Memento Mori asks, what if the real comfort is knowing you didn't sleepwalk through your life? So put your phone face down during lunch. Let the to-do list wait while you really hear your friend's voice. Death isn't chasing you, it's whispering, wake up. And the gift it offers isn't fear, but focus. Ever feel like your biggest problems loom so large they blot out everything else? Here's a thought experiment from Marcus Aurelius that's been shaking people awake for centuries. Picture yourself floating high above the earth until cities shrink to dots, oceans become thin blue lines, and your worries the argument that played on loop in your head, the deadline that felt life or death, vanish into the silent vastness of space. He called this the view from above, and it's not about dismissing your struggles, it's about seeing them in their true proportion. Modern science gives us an even more staggering version of this. Satellite images show our planet as a pale blue speck in the blackness, no borders, no noise, just one fragile sphere. Astronauts who have seen Earth from orbit often describe the overview effect, a profound shift in perspective where petty conflicts seem absurd against the backdrop of our shared home. You don't need a spacesuit to borrow this clarity. Try it now. Close your eyes and imagine zooming out from wherever you are, through the roof, above the clouds, past the moon until the entire world fits in your palm. Notice how your urgent concerns start to feel smaller, quieter, like background static in a symphony. This isn't escapism, it's recalibration, that co-worker who nitpicks your reports. From 10,000 feet, they're just another human grappling with their own fears. The traffic jam that wrecked your morning, a tiny ripple in the flow of a bustling species. The Stoics weren't suggesting we ignore real pain, but they knew something neuroscience now confirms. Our brains magnify threats on instinct, turning pebbles into boulders. The view from above is the antidote, a reminder that most of what haunts us wouldn't even register on a cosmic scale. Here's how to make this tangible. Next time you're spiraling over something that feels massive, pause and ask, will this matter in 10 days, 10 months, 10 years? Then picture the Earth as it would look from Saturn's rings, a faint, glowing marble. Feel the shift. That's the power of cosmic context. Marcus wrote, "Keep before your eyes the whole of time and the whole of existence," not to diminish your experience, but to liberate you from the illusion that any single moment defines your story. So tonight, step outside, look up, let the stars remind you, you're both inconceivably small and unimaginably precious, a fleeting spark in eternity, yet one with the power to choose what deserves your fire. The universe won't resolve your problems, but it will give you the spaciousness to solve them with steadier hands. Right now, as you watch this, your mind is likely juggling thoughts about the video, what you'll eat later, that unfinished task nagging at you, maybe even judging whether this script is worth your time. That mental chatter is exactly what the Stoics aimed to master through Prossotch, their ancient practice of vigilant attention. Epictetus compared it to standing guard at the gates of your mind like a night watchman, questioning every thought that tries to enter. Where's your evidence? Is this useful? Does this deserve my energy? Sound familiar? It should. This is mindfulness stripped bare 20 centuries before apps and ambient playlists tried to sell it back to us. Picture this, you're about to vent about your hectic day when you catch yourself mid-sentence. That split-second pause where you notice the complaint rising and choose whether to give it air is Prossotch in action. The Stoics weren't interested in emptying the mind. They focused on intercepting thoughts before they hijacked behavior. Marcus Aurelius practiced this during his reign, jotting reminders like, "Ask yourself at every moment, is this necessary?" Imagine applying that filter to your next rush hour rant or social media scroll. The modern twist, we call it metacognition, thinking about thinking, but the goal remains unchanged, to break the chain between impulse and reaction. Here's where Stoic attention outshines passive mindfulness. While meditation often teaches observing thoughts without attachment, Prossotch adds a critical next step, discernment. Think of your mind as a high-security facility. Mindfulness trains you to watch people enter the building. Stoicism arms you with a checklist to question each visitor. Does this belief serve me? Is this judgment based on facts or fears? When a colleague's terse email sparks irritation, Prossotch doesn't just notice the anger, it interrogates it. What if they're overwhelmed too? What if this isn't about me at all? Ready to test this for the next hour? Track your automatic negative thoughts like a scientist collecting data. No judgment, just curiosity. That muttered, "This traffic is unbearable," a zoom in. Is the road actually unbearable, or is your impatience the real source of suffering? That sigh over a messy kitchen, is it the dishes troubling you, or the story you're telling yourself about fairness? Epictetus warned, "We are disturbed not by things, but by the views we take of them." Every gripe you intercept is a chance to rewrite that view. The magic lies in the mundane. While grand gestures of self-control make headlines, Stoic peace is built in these quiet moments. When you stifle a sarcastic remark, when you reframe, "I have to," as "I get to," when you spot worry masquerading as planning. This isn't about policing joy, it's about reclaiming sovereignty over your inner world. As you drift off tonight, ask the night watchman's question: what thought today deserved more of my attention? What deserved less? The answers might surprise you. Marcus Aurelius never tweeted. He didn't post polished morning routines or stage photos of his journal spread out beside a latte. His writings, now known as meditations, weren't meant for likes or shares. They were raw, unfiltered conversations with himself, a practice so private he'd likely cringe to know we're reading them 2,000 years later. That's the heart of Stoic journaling, not performative self-improvement, but ruthless self-honesty. Compare that to the highlight reels we scroll through daily, carefully curated snapshots where everyone's thriving, growing, blessed. Social media rewards the illusion of perfection. Stoicism prizes the messy work of progress. Think of your last social post. Did it capture your frustration when you snapped at your partner this morning? The envy you felt scrolling through a friend's vacation photos? Probably not. But Marcus filled his pages with exactly these unflattering moments, not to wallow, but to confront. He wrote, "You can rid yourself of many useless things among those that disturb you, for they lie entirely in your imagination." That's the difference between posting for an audience and writing for your soul. One begs for external validation, the other builds internal clarity. Here's how to start tonight. Grab any notebook, no calligraphy pens or aesthetic layouts required. Ask yourself 3 questions Marcus might have posed. First, what did I truly control today? Not the weather, not your boss's mood, but your own choices. Maybe you controlled your tongue when a coworker took credit for your idea. Maybe you didn't, and that's worth noting too. Second, where did I act with virtue? Not grand gestures, but quiet integrity. Did you listen fully when your kid rambled about their day, even though you were exhausted? Did you choose patience in the grocery line instead of sighing loudly? Stoic virtue lies in these micro moments. Third, what needs mending? Not self-flagellation, but clear-eyed adjustment. Perhaps you noticed resentment brewing when a friend cancelled plans. Why did that sting? Maybe you procrastinated on a task, then blamed not having time. Trace the gap between your intentions and actions without drama or excuses. This isn't about crafting profound insights, it's about spotting patterns. Over time, you'll see how often you blame external chaos for internal turmoil, and how much power you actually hold. Social media trains us to perform. Stoic journaling trains us to see. Try this experiment for 1 week. Write these 3 questions every night before you open any apps. The contrast will shock you. Online, you're the star of your own show. On paper, you're both the scientist and the specimen, observing your impulses, your rationalizations, your quiet growth. As Seneca advised, assess yourself nightly. How did I live today? What did I lack? The answers won't fit in a caption, but they might just change how you wake up tomorrow. History gives us remarkable portraits of unshakable composure, none more striking than Cato the Younger facing catastrophic defeat. When Julius Caesar's forces crushed Pompey's army at Pharsalus, most of Rome's elite scrambled to switch sides, groveling for mercy. But Cato, he calmly gathered his remaining troops, organized an orderly retreat across the Libyan desert, and when ultimate surrender became inevitable, chose dignity over capitulation. Legend says he spent his final evening discussing philosophy before taking his own life rather than live under tyranny. What's astonishing isn't his death, but his demeanor. No panic, no theatrics, just steady resolve. Plutarch recorded that even in chaos, Cato maintained a soul at peace with itself. That's the Stoic ideal made flesh, inner freedom untouched by external ruin. Now fast forward 2 millennia to a different kind of battlefield, a tennis court. In 2021, Naomi Osaka stunned the sports world by withdrawing from the French Open, citing mental health struggles. Facing blistering criticism, she didn't lash out or crumble. Her statement was pure modern Stoicism. I never wanted to be a distraction. I accept that my timing was imperfect. But we're all human. Like Cato, she demonstrated that true strength isn't about powering through at all costs, but knowing when your principles demand stepping away even from glory. Or consider James Stockdale, the Navy pilot shot down over Vietnam. For 7 years in the infamous Hanoi Hilton prison, he endured torture without betraying his fellow POWs. Later, he credited Epictetus. He taught me that what matters isn't what happens to you, but how you relate to what happens. Stockdale's ordeal mirrors ancient Stoic tests, not in Senate chambers or battlefields, but in solitary cells where the only victory was maintaining integrity. These stories share a common thread. Crisis doesn't create character, it reveals it. The Stoics believed philosophy was useless if it couldn't hold up in life's grimmest moments. That's why they trained like athletes, not with weights and sprints, but through mental drills preparing them for betrayal, pain, and loss. Modern psychology confirms this wisdom. Navy SEAL now study cognitive reframing techniques strikingly similar to Marcus Aurelius' journaling. Trauma therapists teach clients the Stoic art of circling control, of focusing energy only where it can make a difference. So who's your Stoic hero? Maybe it's a grandparent who weathered hardship with quiet grace, or a co-worker who stays level-headed during layoffs. Perhaps it's a public figure like Malala Yousafzai, who turned an assassination attempt into a global crusade for education. The key isn't finding someone perfect, it's recognizing those who embody the Stoic paradox. Softer on the outside, compassionate, adaptable, harder on the inside, principled, unshakable. Try this tonight. Name one person, real or historical, who exemplifies Stoic resilience to you. Then ask, what specific quality do I admire? Is it their ability to reframe setbacks, their refusal to play the victim, their knack for finding agency in helpless situations? Finally, the Stoic twist. How can I cultivate that same trait, starting with tomorrow's small irritations? Because role models aren't just for admiration, they're blueprints for building your own unshakable core. As Seneca wrote, we are all chained to fortune, but some wear gold chains and some rusted ones, yet the weight is the same. Your choice lies in how you carry the links. Imagine this, your coworker bursts into the break room fuming about the boss's latest decision. The air crackles with gossip, and everyone leans in, everyone but you. While others rush to add fuel to the fire, you stay quiet. Not because you lack an opinion, but because you've mastered what Seneca called the difference between silver and gold. Speech is silver, silence is golden. In that moment, your restraint isn't weakness, it's a strategic choice, a Stoic superpower. Silence gets a bad rap in our hyper-connected world. We confuse it with awkwardness, submission, or worse, indifference. But ancient Stoics saw it differently. Epictetus taught that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, to listen twice as much as we speak. think about the last heated argument you witnessed. How often did someone pause to truly hear the other side? Most debates devolve into dueling monologues where victory goes to the loudest, not the wisest. Strategic silence breaks that cycle. It creates space for thought, diffuses tension, and often reveals more than words ever could. Let's make this real with a scenario. Your team is discussing a failed project and fingers start pointing. The room splits into factions, some blaming management, others attacking colleagues. You feel the pull to pick a side to defend your corner, but instead you stay quiet. At first, it's uncomfortable. Then something shifts. People notice you're calm. The shouting gradually quiets. When you finally speak, it's not to accuse but to ask, what can we learn here? That's the alchemy of silence. It turns chaos into clarity. Here's the challenge Seneca would issue today. Try a 24-hour, unnecessary speech fast. For one full day, speak only when it serves a purpose, to inform, to comfort, to resolve. No venting about the weather, no rehashing old grievances, no chatter just to fill air. You'll quickly discover how much of our talk is habitual noise. Notice the urge to jump into office gossip, to correct someone's trivial mistake, to narrate your every thought. Each time you resist, you're not just holding your tongue, you're training your mind to choose impact over impulse. The benefits ripple outward. Silence makes your words weightier when you do speak. It sharpens your ability to listen not just to others' words, but to their fears and hopes beneath the surface. And perhaps most surprisingly, it reveals how often we talk to convince ourselves, not others. Those lengthy justifications for our choices, the complaints we repeat like mantras. They're often less about communication and more about self-persuasion. Try this today. In your next conversation, count to 3 before responding, not as a dramatic pause, but as a reset button for your reflexes. In that heartbeat of stillness, ask, is what I'm about to say true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? You might find half your words never needed to be spoken. That's the paradox Stoics uncovered centuries ago. Sometimes the most powerful voice is the one you don't use. Marcus Aurelius faced rebellions, betrayals, and plagues, yet his private journals reveal a man who saw each disaster as raw material for growth. He wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." That cryptic line holds a key to resilience. Obstacles aren't just hurdles to overcome, they're the very terrain we're meant to travel. Consider James Stockdale, the Navy pilot shot down over Vietnam. Parachuting into enemy territory with a broken leg, he later described his immediate thought, 5 years minimum. No denial, no false hope, just clear-eyed acceptance. For 7 years in the Hanoi Hilton, Stockdale transformed torture chambers into classrooms, using Epictetus' teachings to fortify fellow POWs. When captors demanded propaganda confessions, he slit his scalp with a razor and beat himself bloody to appear unfit for filming. His defiance wasn't reckless, it was strategic alchemy, turning pain into leverage. Fast forward to Silicon Valley startup culture, where failure is often the precursor to reinvention. When Airbnb's founders were struggling to pay rent in 2008, they repurposed their empty apartment into a makeshift bed and breakfast for a design conference, using cereal boxes as marketing props. What seemed like desperation became their blueprint. Similarly, Slack began as a failed video game company. Its team realized their internal communication tool was more valuable than the game itself. These aren't just pivot stories, they're modern Stoicism in action. The obstacle, no funding, a dying product didn't just disappear, it revealed a hidden path forward. Here's the challenge: pick one current frustration, a rejected proposal, a strained relationship, even a mundane inconvenience like a broken laptop. Now ask, how could this exact situation be necessary for my growth? Maybe the rejection exposes a flaw in your approach that needed fixing. Maybe the tension with your colleague is highlighting a boundary you've neglected to set. The broken laptop forced digital detox to reassess priorities. Stockdale called this the paradox of adversity. The things we most wish to avoid often carry the lessons we most need. This mindset flips victimhood into agency. A flooded basement becomes a chance to practice calm problem solving. A career setback forces you to explore skills you'd otherwise ignore. Even grief, as brutal as it is, can carve out deeper capacities for compassion. The Stoics weren't naive. They knew suffering hurts, but they also recognized that within every barrier lies a choice: to resist what you can't change or to reshape it into stepping stones. So tonight, scribble down your biggest headache right now, then rewrite it as a teacher. What's it here to show you? The answer might just reveal your next move. When people dismiss Stoics as cold or unfeeling, they miss one of philosophy's most profound truths. True strength isn't hardness, it's the courage to care deeply without being consumed. The Stoics didn't reject emotion, they refined it into something more potent. Take Hierocles, a lesser-known but brilliant Stoic thinker who envisioned human connection as a series of concentric circles. At the center, you find yourself. The next ring holds your family, then friends, neighbors, fellow citizens, and finally, all of humanity, his radical idea. Practice drawing those outer circles inward, treating strangers as neighbors, neighbors as family, until the distinction fades. This wasn't abstract idealism, it was a daily discipline of widening compassion. Fast forward to today, and you'll spot this ancient wisdom in action everywhere. Think of volunteers who cook meals for homeless strangers, or neighbors who organize grocery runs for elderly residents during a crisis. These aren't just acts of charity, they're modern Stoicism in motion. When a hurricane flattens a community 1,000 miles away, and someone you've never met starts a fundraiser, that's hierarchical circles collapsing in real time. The Stoic goal wasn't to eliminate feeling, but to direct it wisely, to care without drowning in despair, to help without burning out. Here's the twist: Stoic compassion starts with a brutal honesty about limits. You can't feed every hungry child or heal every broken system, but you can choose one circle to expand today. Maybe it's the coworker you usually ignore or the delivery driver you've never thanked. Epictetus put it plainly: if you want to improve, be content to appear clueless or stupid in extraneous matters. Translation: let go of seeming impressive and focus on being kind where it counts. Try this experiment. Pick someone who exists on the fringe of your circles: the quiet barista who makes your coffee, the distant relative you only see at funerals, even the internet stranger whose post annoyed you yesterday. Then perform one small act that acknowledges their humanity. Pay for the next person's drink in line. Send that relative a text with no agenda. Scroll past that post without engaging. Notice how it shifts something in you, not because you solved world hunger, but because you exercised the muscle of intentional connection. The Stoics knew a secret our polarized world forgets. Compassion isn't weakness, it's focus. It's the choice to meet cruelty with clarity, to answer injustice with action rather than outrage. Marcus Aurelius, who spent nights in war camps, wrote, "What injures the hive injures the bee." He didn't mean we should martyr ourselves for every cause. He meant that every act of disregard for others erodes our own humanity. So today, bend one circle inward. Not to save the world, but to remind yourself and one other person that no one exists outside the circle. Your smartphone buzzes with another notification, and without thinking, your thumb swipes open the app. 10 minutes later, you emerge from the scroll hole, blinking like someone waking from a trance. Your mind cluttered, your focus shattered. This isn't just distraction. It's a modern battleground for attention, and Stoicism offers an ancient arsenal to reclaim it. Seneca, who warned against the mob of Rome's crowded streets, might today caution us about the digital mob, endless feeds amplifying outrage, envy, and noise. His solution was radical simplicity: avoid the many, associate with the few. Translated for the 21st century, curate your digital world like a Stoic gardener, pruning what doesn't nourish your peace. Take social media detoxing beyond trendy advice. The Stoics practiced premeditatio malorum, anticipating disruptions to fortify against them. Apply that to your screen time. Schedule regular, blackout hours where your phone stays in another room, not as punishment but as training. Like a muscle resisting atrophy, your attention strengthens when it's not constantly tugged by pings. One executive shared how she reclaims mornings by leaving her device in the kitchen overnight, a small boundary that transformed her first waking hours from reactive to intentional. Another writer uses a literal hourglass for work sprints. When the sand runs out, he checks messages in a single batch rather than fracturing his focus. These aren't hacks, they're disciplines, but Stoic digital minimalism isn't about deletion, it's about discernment. Ask yourself Seneca's filter: does this platform expand my understanding or shrink my patience? Follow accounts that challenge you to think deeper, not just react faster. Mute the perpetual outrage cycles. Notice how certain apps leave you energized versus drained. One teacher realized Twitter debates were his version of the mob Seneca warned about, so he switched to following historians and poets, turning his feed into a virtual library rather than a shouting match. Here's the litmus test: track one day of digital interactions like a Stoic auditor. Which clicks left you clearer? Which dragged you into envy or anger? That meme war you jumped into, did it sharpen your character or just spike your cortisol? Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Ask of each thing, what are you in essence? What do I need you for?" Apply that to your next Instagram scroll. Is it connection you're after, or just the dopamine drip of another like? The ultimate question isn't whether technology is good or bad, it's whether you're using it or it's using you. Your phone, like a Stoic tool, should serve your purpose, not dictate it. So tonight, try this before bed. Jot down one online habit that consistently erodes your calm. Then borrow Epictetus's blunt wisdom: if it harms your peace, why cling to it? The answer might not be quitting outright, but rewiring your relationship, turning screens from masters back into servants. After all, the goal isn't to live like a hermit. It's to engage with the world on terms that don't cost you your soul. Marcus Aurelius ended his days with ink-stained fingers, scrawling notes by lamplight, not battle plans for Rome, but reflections on his own shortcomings. His nightly ritual wasn't about productivity, it was about presence. When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive. He wrote, yet this gratitude wasn't reserved for dawn. His evenings began with the same quiet reckoning. Where did I stray from wisdom today? Where did I act with courage? Compare that to our modern lullaby, the glow of screens, the endless scroll. The mind cluttered with tomorrows to doss before today is even laid to rest. The Stoics didn't have algorithms hijacking their attention, but they understood the enemy distraction from what matters. Seneca took this further. His letters describe evenings spent in a review of the whole day, not a passive replay, but an excavation. He'd ask himself 3 questions. What did I do well? What could I mend? What patterns keep tripping me up? Imagine applying that tonight. Instead of numbing yourself with reels, you sit with a notebook and trace the day's contours. That snippy reply to your partner, why did it surface? The procrastination on that project, what fear was hiding beneath it? This isn't self-judgment, it's forensic curiosity. The Stoics believed nighttime was for sharpening the blade of awareness, so mornings could be wielded with purpose. Here's the twist: their rituals weren't just about looking backward. Epictetus taught his students to prepare for the morning's tasks the night before, not by scheduling meetings but by rehearsing virtue. Picture this: you visualize tomorrow's difficult conversation. You anticipate feeling defensive, then consciously choose patience. You foresee a tempting shortcut, then reaffirm integrity. Modern science calls this implementation intention. Stoics called it arming the mind. By pre-living challenges, they drained them of their power to surprise. Now, the challenge: for 3 nights, trade your screen for a page. Start with Seneca's trio. What did I do today that aligned with my values? Where did I falter? Then borrow Marcus' lens. How will I meet tomorrow's tasks with wisdom? No elaborate journals, just a few lines of unflinching honesty. You might discover, as they did, that the space between dusk and dawn isn't just for resting the body, but for awakening the soul. The Stoics didn't chase perfect days, they cultivated attentive ones. And it began each evening when the lamps burned low and the noise of the world finally stilled. Marcus Aurelius greeted each dawn with a question most of us never think to ask: what is the work of a human being today? Not what emails need answering, not what errands demand attention, but what actions would fulfill his purpose as a thinking, compassionate member of the human tribe. He wrote those words by candlelight, long before alarms could jolt us awake with synthetic urgency. His morning ritual wasn't about jumping into productivity, it was about grounding in intention. Compare that to how most of us start our days, reaching for phones before our eyes fully focus, letting the world's demands colonize our minds within seconds of waking. The Stoics knew something neuroscience now confirms: how you begin the day shapes where your energy flows. Imagine swapping that reflex to check notifications for something simpler. Instead of reaching for your phone, try reaching for clarity. Before your feet hit the floor, name one intention that aligns with your deepest values. Maybe it's patience during your commute, full presence during a child's breakfast chatter, or courage to voice an idea in a meeting. This isn't about crafting a to-do list, it's about choosing the lens through which you'll experience the hours ahead. One executive keeps a small stone on her nightstand and a tactile reminder to set her daily anchor before moving. Another whispers Marcus' phrase like a mantra: rise and do the work of a human. Not a worker, not a boss, not a consumer, a human. Here's where modern science nods to ancient wisdom. Studies on implementation intentions show that people who start their day with specific mindset commitments, not just tasks, navigate challenges with more resilience. A teacher might intend to listen more than he speaks in faculty meetings. A parent might focus on responding rather than reacting to toddler tantrums. These aren't goals with measurable outcomes, they're compass settings for how you want to move through the world. Try this experiment for 3 mornings. Let your first conscious thought be a question, not, what do I have to do? But who do I want to be today? Then pick one quality to embody: curiosity over criticism in conversations, calm in the face of delays, generosity with your attention. Carry that word like a pebble in your pocket, letting its weight remind you throughout the day. You'll notice something fascinating: obstacles don't disappear, but your relationship to them shifts. Traffic becomes a chance to practice patience. A grueling workout turns into a lesson in perseverance. Even mundane tasks gain dignity when framed as part of the work of a human. And if alarms feel necessary, borrow a trick from sleep researchers. Set 2-1 soft 5 minutes before you need to rise, with a tone that eases you awake. Think wind chimes, not air raid sirens. Use those minutes to revisit your intention. The second alarm, that's your commitment signal, the moment your feet touch the floor. This tiny buffer creates space between waking and reacting, a modern approximation of Marcus' candlelit reflections. The Stoics didn't chase perfect mornings, they cultivated intentional ones. Your phone can wait, the world's noise will still be there, but those first quiet moments. They're the raw material for crafting not just a day, but a life. So tonight, place your reminder, a stone, a note, a folded quote, where you'll see it upon waking. Tomorrow, before the world claims your attention, claim your humanity first. Musonius Rufus, the often overlooked Stoic teacher, had a radical idea that would make modern gym bros pause mid-burpee. Physical training is essential for philosophy. Not as a vanity project, but as a forge for resilience. While today's fitness culture screams, no pain, no gain, through glossy ads of chiseled abs, the Stoics saw sweat as soulcraft, a way to rehearse for life's real battles. Picture the difference. One person grinds through a brutal workout to impress strangers on Instagram. Another chooses discomfort to master their mind. Both push limits, but only one emerges stronger where it counts. Ancient Stoics didn't have Peloton bikes or protein shakes. Their gym was life itself. Musonius taught that hard labor, chopping wood, hauling water, wasn't just choreography for survival. It was moral weightlifting. Every calloused palm built calluses on the will. Compare that to today's convenience at all costs mentality, where we outsource even the mildest discomfort. Elevators over stairs, Uber over walking, streaming over patience. The modern world whispers that ease equals happiness, but Stoics knew better. Soften the body, and you risk softening the spirit. Take cold showers, a practice Musonius championed 2,000 years before biohackers rebranded it. That first shock of icy water isn't just a test of endurance, it's a microcosm of life's unexpected freezes. When you choose to stand under the cold stream rather than flinch away, you're not just building tolerance to low temperatures. You're training for the day your project gets cancelled, your flight gets delayed, your heart gets broken. The body's shudder mirrors the mind's resistance to hardship, and each time you stay under the spray, you rewrite the instinct to flee. This isn't about masochism. Ancient athletes didn't run marathons in sandals to punish themselves. They did it to discover what they were made of. Modern research backs this. Voluntary discomfort, fasting, cold exposure, even digital detoxes boost stress resilience by lowering our reactivity to life's inevitable jolts. Navy SEAL don't endure hell week because suffering is fun. They do it because once you've slept in freezing mud, a chaotic work meeting feels like a minor itch. So here's the challenge. Pick one mild discomfort to invite today. Maybe it's taking the stairs instead of the elevator, leaving your phone behind during lunch, or drinking your coffee black when you'd rather drown it in cream. The goal isn't to prove toughness, it's to notice what happens when comfort isn't your default setting. That twinge of annoyance when you resist checking notifications. That's the muscle of impulse weakening. The sigh when you face an unappealing task without procrastinating. That's discipline taking root. Musonius put it bluntly. How can someone who's never resisted pleasure handle hardship when it comes? Life doesn't care if you're ready for its storms, but those daily acts of voluntary grit, they're your anchor points, proof that you can bear more than you think, long before fate forces the test upon you. So tonight, when you're tempted to take the easy route, ask, what tiny battle can I win for my future self? The answer might just reshape your capacity for calm when real chaos hits. Epictetus imagined the mind as a fortress with a gatekeeper, a disciplined inner sentry tasked with questioning every thought before allowing it entry. Does this serve me? Is this based in truth? That split-second interrogation, what Stoics called Prossotch, is the difference between reaction and response. Modern neuroscience confirms this ancient wisdom. The amygdala, our brain's alarm system, fires impulses in milliseconds, while the prefrontal cortex, the seat of reason, takes a full 10 seconds to engage. The space between, that's the Stoic pause, and it's where your power lives. Consider a universal stress test, parenting tantrums. Your child collapses in the cereal aisle, wailing because you won't buy the sugar-laced box with the cartoon mascot. Your face flushes, your jaw tightens, the primal urge to yell or yank them up surges. But here's where the gatekeeper steps in. 3 deliberate breaths. Inhale, this isn't an emergency. Exhale, she's not giving me a hard time, she's having a hard time. Inhale, my reaction will teach her how to handle frustration. Those seconds of oxygen buy just enough time for the prefrontal cortex to override the amygdala's chaos. What felt like an hour-long meltdown might dissolve with a calm whisper, "I see you're upset." Let's find a better way. This practice isn't about suppressing emotions, it's about metabolizing them. A study on courtroom judges found they granted parole more frequently after lunch breaks when blood sugar levels were stable. Hunger had subtly hijacked their decisions. Similarly, a pause before responding to a snarky email or a partner's thoughtless remark lets you act from values rather than volatility. The Stoic pause is the ultimate hack for emotional indigestion. It lets you digest the moment before spitting out something you'll regret. Try this today. Pick 3 mundane triggers: a colleague interrupting you, a driver cutting you off, the Wi-Fi buffering. Each time, institute a 3-breath embargo before reacting. First breath, name the emotion, annoyance. Second breath, check the facts, they didn't do this to me. Third breath, choose your move. Will this matter in 10 minutes? Like a muscle, this reflex strengthens with repetition. One CEO keeps a post-it on her monitor, gatekeeper mode on. Another visualizes Epictetus' sentry at his mental gates, arms crossed, demanding credentials from every knee-jerk thought. The magic lies in the mundane. Ancient Stoics didn't wait for crises to train. They drilled in the quiet moments, stepping aside to let others pass, enduring cold water, eating plain food so when real storms hit, pause was second nature. Your tantrums won't always be in grocery aisles. There'll be layoffs, betrayals, diagnoses, but the discipline remains the same. Breathe before you become the whirlwind. As Marcus Aurelius scribbled in the margins of his war journals, the nearer a man comes to a calm mind, the closer he is to strength. Your next breath might just be the hinge between chaos and calm. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." That paradox cuts to the heart of our addiction to praise. We'll spend hours crafting the perfect caption, agonizing over likes, or rehearsing how to share news in a way that maximizes applause, all while privately dismissing those same opinions as shallow. The Stoics saw this chase for validation as a trap. External praise, they argued, is as fickle as weather. Here one moment, gone the next, yet we build entire identities on sand that keeps shifting. Consider the modern version of this ancient struggle: social media metrics. Every like, share, and comment triggers a dopamine hit, training us to confuse visibility with value. A chef posts a dish not just to share, but to harvest compliments. A traveler documents a sunset not just to remember, but to rack up views. The irony. Studies show that the more we rely on this external validation, the emptier we feel. It's like drinking salt water. The thirst only grows. Marcus warned, if you're praised by others, be suspicious of yourself. Not because praise is evil, but because dependence on it corrodes authenticity. Here's the litmus test. How would your actions change if no one was watching? Would you still volunteer if no one knew about it? Would you create art if it couldn't be displayed? The Stoics practiced what they called the inner citadel, a mental fortress where their worth wasn't negotiable by outside opinion. They aimed to act virtuously, not for the applause, but because it was right. Picture two co-workers side by side. One arrives early to be seen by the boss, the other because they take pride in preparation. Both may perform the same task, but only one is free from the tyranny of praise. Now for the challenge. Do one good deed anonymously this week. Pay for a stranger's coffee and leave before they can thank you. Send an encouraging note without signing it. Pick up litter in your neighborhood without posting about it. Notice how it feels to act without the possibility of recognition, the slight discomfort, then the quiet liberation. You're not just avoiding praise, you're reclaiming sovereignty over your motivations. This practice reveals a profound truth the Stoics knew. When you stop needing gold stars, you discover your actions were never about the stars to begin with. They were about the person you became while reaching for them. So tonight, ask yourself, where have I been performing for an audience that doesn't hold the script to my life? The answer might just point you back to your unshakable core. Seneca wrote a letter to his friend Paulinus that should jolt anyone who's ever said, "I don't have time." In it, he drops this grenade of truth. You're living as if destined to live forever, yet you lose the one thing you can never recover: time. Think about that for a second. You can borrow money, rebuild a house, even mend broken relationships, but wasted minutes, gone forever. The Stoics didn't just philosophize about time. They treated it like a currency more precious than gold, because while wealth fluctuates, every tick of the clock is a withdrawal from an account you can't refill. Modern life has warped our relationship with time in ways Seneca couldn't have imagined. We wear busyness like a badge of honor, cramming calendars until they bleed into each other, mistaking motion for meaning. But here's the uncomfortable question. How much of that hustle is actually purposeful? Scroll through your screen time report, endless social media refreshes, binge watching shows you barely remember, meetings that could have been emails. These aren't just habits, they're slow leaks in your irreplaceable time bucket. The Stoic solution: ruthless auditing. Picture a CEO reviewing quarterly expenses, slashing anything that doesn't yield returns. That's how you should approach your weeks. Grab last week's calendar and highlight 3 time investments that aligned with your core values, maybe deep work on a meaningful project, uninterrupted family time, or learning a skill that excites you. Now circle 3 that drained hours without enriching your life: doom scrolling, gossip sessions, or procrastination disguised as research. The gap between those highlights and circles is where your sovereignty over time begins. One tech executive shared how she reclaimed 10 hours a week by eliminating 2 insidious drains: decision fatigue. From daily outfit debates, she adopted a work uniform like Zuckerberg's hoodies, and shallow networking, replacing obligatory coffee chats with focused collaboration. Another writer uses what he calls the Seneca filter for invitations. Will this matter on my deathbed? If the answer's no, he declines without guilt. This isn't about rigidity, it's about aligning your minutes with what makes your life feel fully lived. Here's your challenge: pick one non-essential to eliminate this week. Not temporarily, but permanently. Maybe it's that group chat that buzzes with complaints but never solutions. Perhaps it's saying yes to projects that drain you rather than ignite you. Or it could be as simple as turning your commute into a podcast classroom instead of rage listening to talk radio. The key is to treat time like the finite resource it is, because unlike money, you can't earn it back with overtime. Seneca warned, life is long if you know how to use it. That's the paradox. When you stop filling hours with hollow motion, time stretches in ways that defy the clock. A single mindful conversation can imprint deeper than months of small talk. An hour of focused creation outweighs days of distracted busy work. The Stoics weren't productivity hackers. They were alchemists who transformed fleeting moments into enduring meaning. So tonight, ask yourself, what will you stop doing, not to cram more in, but to leave space for what actually matters? The answer might just reclaim your life. Gratitude often gets watered down into platitudes, those overly cheerful reminders to look on the bright side when life feels heavy. But Stoic gratitude, that's something far more potent. Picture Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, starting each day not with demands or decrees, but with quiet thanks, not just for comforts, but for the very obstacles that would sharpen his character. His journal reveals lines like, "When you arise in the morning, give thanks for the light, for your life, for your strength. Give thanks for your food and for the joy of living." And if you see no reason for giving thanks, the fault lies in yourself. This wasn't naive optimism. It was a warrior's acknowledgement that every circumstance, even hardship, carried a gift if you had the eyes to see it. Modern gratitude practices often focus on the obvious: health, family, a roof overhead. But Stoicism takes it further. What if you thanked the traffic jam that taught you patience? The difficult coworker who revealed your triggers, even the failure that redirected your path? Ancient Stoics called this amor fati, the love of fate, but you don't need Latin to practice it. Think of a musician whose hand injury forced them to explore composing, only to discover a deeper talent, or a writer rejected by publishers who then self-published, building a direct connection with readers. The unwanted gift isn't the setback itself, but the resilience and creativity it unlocks. Here's how to make this tangible tonight. Grab a notebook and list 3 recent challenges that felt like misfortunes. Maybe it was a project that fell through, an argument that stung, or a plan that crumbled. Now, dig for the hidden lining. That failed project, did it free up time for something better? The argument, did it surface an issue that needed addressing? The cancelled plan, did it offer unexpected rest? This isn't about pretending pain doesn't hurt. It's about recognizing that even storms water new growth. The twist: real gratitude isn't passive acceptance, it's active mining. A farmer doesn't thank the drought, but they might honor how it pushed them to innovate irrigation systems. A parent doesn't cheer for sleepless nights, but they might value the tenderness found in 3 a.m. feedings. Marcus didn't pretend his wars were blessings, but he did right. The obstacle becomes the way. That's the Stoic shift, not waiting for life to get easier, but getting stronger in the places life presses hardest. So try this reframe next time frustration bites. What if this isn't happening to me, but for me? The answer won't erase the struggle, but it might just reveal the strength you're building beneath it. After all, gratitude isn't a magic wand to vanish darkness. It's the spark that helps you see the gifts already glowing in your hands. Hierarchal's ancient concept of concentric circles, where you stand at the center, surrounded by rings of family, friends, community, and eventually all of humanity, wasn't just a map of connection. It was a call to conscious curation. Imagine your attention as sunlight, finite, life-giving, and most potent when focused. Modern networking often feels like scattering that light in every direction, collecting linked-in connections like trading cards, attending events out of obligation, or maintaining draining relationships out of guilt. Stoicism offers a radical alternative: prune like a gardener, nourish like a healer. Take the colleague who only reaches out to vent, never to celebrate you. Or the relative who weaponizes nostalgia to manipulate. Even the acquaintance who drains your energy with constant negativity. These aren't just challenging relationships, they're thieves of your limited attention, the most precious resource you can't replenish. The Stoic approach: assess each connection through the lens of virtue. Does this person inspire you toward wisdom, courage, or justice? Do they reciprocate the energy you invest? Pruning isn't cruelty, it's stewardship of your inner peace. When Seneca advised, associate with those who will make you better, he wasn't endorsing elitism, he was advocating for environments where growth isn't accidental but inevitable. Now apply this to digital spaces. That group chat buzzing with gossip, the influencer whose posts leave you feeling inadequate. Hierarchals would urge you to ask, does this belong in my inner circles, or is it noise masquerading as connection? One executive shared how unfollowing professional complainers freed up mental bandwidth for mentors who challenged her thinking. Another realized that his weekly coffee with a perpetually cynical friend wasn't camaraderie, it was emotional junk food. The shift wasn't about cutting people off, but consciously choosing who got access to his attention. Here's the litmus test. After interacting with someone, whether in person or online, do you feel energized or depleted? Inspired or embittered, closer to your best self or slipping into pettiness? Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." Who you allow into your mental space isn't just social logistics, it's soulcraft. But Stoic networking isn't just subtraction, it's strategic expansion. That barista who remembers your order, the quiet coworker who asks thoughtful questions, they might belong in a tighter circle. A young entrepreneur told me how shifting one lunch a month from networking events to conversations with retirees in his neighborhood gave him perspectives no business podcast could match. Hierarchical circles remind us that depth beats breadth every time. So tonight, sketch your own circles. Start with who currently occupies each ring, not just who should be there based on obligation. Then move one person closer to the center, someone who reflects the virtues you're cultivating, and gently release one relationship back to the periphery, not with drama, but with the quiet respect of redirecting your sunlight elsewhere. The goal isn't isolation, but intention, a social ecosystem where every connection, near or far, helps you grow into the person you aspire to be. After all, your attention is the most valuable currency you hold. Spend it like a Stoic, wisely, generously, and always with clear-eyed purpose. Think of your mind as a ship navigating the open sea. Some days, the water is calm, the sun glints off gentle waves, and the breeze carries you effortlessly forward. But then, without warning, storms roll in, towering waves of stress, gusts of unexpected setbacks, the downpour of daily chaos that threatens to capsize your peace. What keeps the ship steady isn't the absence of storms, it's the weight of the anchor. For the Stoics, that anchor wasn't a single tool but a set of practices, forged through daily discipline, that held them firm when the world shook around them. At the core of this anchor are three timeless disciplines: perception, action, and assent. Perception is how you see the world not as it is, but as you interpret it. When your boss criticizes your work, perception determines whether you hear an attack or an opportunity to improve. Action is what you do with that interpretation, whether you lash out or ask clarifying questions. And assent, that's the moment of choice, the split second where you decide whether to let a thought hijack your emotions or question its validity. Together, these form a chain that keeps you from drifting into reactive chaos. Picture this: you're in a meeting when a colleague dismisses your idea with a sarcastic remark. The storm surges, your face flushes, your pulse quickens. But then the anchor catches. Perception. This isn't about me, they're likely stressed. Action. I'll ask for feedback later, away from the group. Assent. I don't need to internalize their tone. The waves still crash, but your ship holds steady. Now, how do you forge your own Stoic anchor? Start with a mantra, a phrase so resonant it cuts through noise like a lighthouse beam. Mine comes from Epictetus. First say to yourself what you would be, then do what you have to do. Yours might be Marcus Aurelius' reminder, you have power over your mind, not outside events, or Seneca's sharp truth, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. Write it on your wrist, tape it to your mirror, set it as your phone's lock screen. Let it be the first thing you see when the storm clouds gather, but a mantra alone isn't enough. Anchors need weight, that's where daily drills come in. Each morning, name one challenge you'll likely face, a tense call, a looming deadline, and rehearse your stoic response. At noon, pause to audit your perceptions. Did I mistake an inconvenience for a catastrophe? At night, reflect on where you held fast and where you drifted. This isn't navel-gazing, it's rigging your ship for rougher waters ahead. The beauty of this anchor, it's adjustable. Some storms demand heavier chains, a health crisis, a betrayal, while others need just enough weight to steady your balance. The key is to never cast it aside, even in calm seas, because the Stoics knew something sailors understand. The weather always changes, but with your anchor in place, you'll find something astonishing. The storm might rage around you, but within, a stillness that no wave can touch. We began this journey in the middle of a storm, traffic jams, buzzing phones, the weight of endless demands pressing in from all sides. But here's what we've discovered together: chaos isn't the enemy. It's the raw material Stoics used to forge unshakable peace. Think back to that first moment when you realized your frustration wasn't about the traffic, but about the story you were telling yourself about the traffic. That shift from blaming the world to mastering your mind is the essence of what we've explored. This wasn't about memorizing quotes from toga-clad philosophers. It was about uncovering practical tools that stand the test of centuries, the dichotomy of control that helps you separate what's worth your energy from what isn't. The amor fati mindset that transforms obstacles into fuel, the nightly journaling that turns reflection into resilience. None of these require a philosophy degree, just the willingness to show up and practice day after imperfect day. Because here's the secret the Stoics knew: peace isn't a destination you arrive at, it's a muscle you strengthen through use. Epictetus, the former slave whose words outlived empires, gave us the ultimate compass. The first and greatest task is this: identify what's yours to control. That's the thread running through every technique we've covered. Not control over external events, but sovereignty over your judgments, your efforts, your choices. When a client rejects your proposal, that's outside your control, but your decision to either wallow or refine your pitch, that's entirely yours. When rain cancels your picnic, the weather isn't yours to command, but whether you turn the afternoon into a cozy reading session or a grumble fest. That's your domain. So as we wrap up, I'm not asking you to leave here transformed into a sage who never feels stress. I'm inviting you to become the kind of person who notices stress rising, and instead of being swept away, plants their feet and asks, what part of this is mine to shape? Maybe today that means pausing before snapping at your partner. Maybe it's choosing gratitude for the job you have while working toward the one you want. Or perhaps it's as simple as closing this video and taking one deep breath before diving back into the chaos. Here's where I'd love your wisdom. Drop one takeaway in the comments, not just what resonated, but how you'll bring it to life this week. Because the real magic happens when we learn not just from ancient texts, but from each other's struggles and triumphs. 2,000 years ago, Marcus Aurelius wrote his meditations for an audience of one. Today, we get to write ours together. Your next chapter of Stoic peace starts now, not when the world calms down, but precisely